Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of Live at the Waterhole, our special Christmas Eve edition. Hopefully, Father Christmas has a couple goodies in the bags for us, and we'll have some great sightings. We're starting off here today at Elephant Pan in Botswana. My name's Kenneth, and I'll be your guide for the session. Just a reminder, of course, the show is live and interactive as usual, so keep those interesting questions and comments coming through, and I'll do my best to answer them. Elephants are certainly looking quite peaceful and well behaved in Elephant Pan today, and just taking it very peacefully. The drink, I'm sure it's quite warm. I must say the heat in the Hoedspruit Lowveld region is slowly skyrocketing again after the few days of rain. It's always good to have a bit of heat baking the soil and getting the photosynthesis going. It really is wonderful to see the other spectrum of the African bush when it's so plentifully full of water. Think back a couple months ago how dry this pan was, and how often we get to hear all the sounds of splashing and water going everywhere the last while. There's quite a few elephants moving all over the show. It's almost like a bit of a Where's Waldo episode. All of a sudden they pop out from the apartments. It's generally a phenomenon one needs to be careful of when driving in thick Mopani bush, or walking for that matter. Elephants quickly disappear in between all the shrubbery. Few Indies now making their way out of the pan, getting deeper into the Mopani veld or forest. I'm sure they're gonna head off for their afternoon siesta and for all the Christmas Eve festivities. I think unfortunately the marulas aren't quite ripe yet for them to enjoy, but I've seen quite a few marulas hanging on the trees, or hanging on the marula trees. Melanistic marble mentioning how the water trough appears to be overflowing. It's interesting. I would have thought they maybe would have considered turning it off. Maybe it's on a much slower setting. But we can see there's been quite a bit of activity. I think yesterday this section of the pan had quite a bit of algae and was quite green. So either there's been a bit of elephant activity, it's kind of swelled it all up or unsettled it, or yeah, that the pump is working. It's kind of a double-edged sword. If you don't let water come to the system, it can start to become a bit stagnant, because obviously there's no real outflow. This water just sits here and evaporates. And thankfully, of course, there are plants and their roots will be reaching into the pan to filtrate ever so slightly and make use of the water. But yeah, Penelope Kenyon mentioning you just had a swim at Salt Rock in KZN, and the rain is on its way again. I have seen a bit of a weather forecast. I see there's certainly rain on its way again. But of course, sorely needed. It's funny, after a few days of rain, one would think the bush is satisfied, but after a day or two of sun, often it's back to square one, and a bit of rainfall is always great. I'm heading off to the Kruger Park on the 26th. We're going to the northern sections near Shingwedzi, so I'm very curious to see how the conditions will be there. And some camp, or one or two small satellite camps have been closed due to flooding of smaller rivers and streams, but quite a normal phenomenon this time of year. This also for that reason why I'm no longer as brave as I used to be. I don't like camping in the rain, so I try avoid using my tent or campsites during the rainy season. It's just a bit unpleasant when you have to camp in the mud, but maybe I've become a bit softer in my older years now. Hi Auntie, you were wondering if a leopard would be killed by lightning while it's in the tree. I think certainly so. Of course, the statistical possibilities of the possibility of that happening is depends on so many factors and relatively small. I think if we take, for example, how rare it is to see leopards in the first place. So for lightning to also hit exactly the same tree that a leopard is in, I think it's definitely possible, but I don't think it's a normal occurrence. While our elephant leaves us, we are going to head over to Aldonio. There we go. A couple of giraffes that drink. The grazing eland are still out in force. I'm starting to think they are not venturing very far and making the most of this grazing here at Aldonio. It's funny that we're not really seeing other zebras or other antelopes, but there's clearly something the eland are enjoying about this greenery that's popped up here. Giraffes not looking too bothered at all. Nice to see some of the oxpeckers also clinging around the giraffes. That is the unfortunate side effect of all this greenery and lush growth. The tick populations start to explode now. I was watering some of my trees this morning. I came across a large tick crawling on the driveway. Certainly one of the least pleasant things to have bite you. And of course a lot of the illnesses that they carry. It's also not a pleasant illness to catch, tick bite fever or Lyme disease. But that is the way nature works. I do think mosquitoes and ticks would have been high on my list to exclude from nature, but they serve a very important ecological role, of course. You can see a few very agile swallows sweeping past, but our chances of identifying one of them is probably very slim. I think we would have to rely on them maybe landing next to the waterhole to gather some mud for their nests, which in itself is probably also quite a quick process. But yeah, swallows and swifts are certainly the more difficult birds to identify since they're generally always flying. Robin Mack, Merry Christmas to you as well. Happy holidays that side. Hope it's filled with much festive cheer. Quite a beautiful bird call in the background here. I'm sure you probably won't see it. I'm wondering if it's on the top of Longclaw. I must play around a bit. All my birding apps unfortunately are set for South Africa, since it's where I spend most of my time. But it sounds a bit like a Longclaw or a pipit maybe. I'll do some digging. I'm gonna pop on over to the hide and see what's going on there. Things are a bit quiet here now. Well, that's certainly fantastic. We've got some carmine bee-eaters here. This would be the southern carmine bee-eater. I don't think they've really reached us yet in South Africa, but they are ever so slowly on their way back. Normally about this time of year when I do my yearly Kruger trip. When I do my yearly Kruger trip, we tend to start picking up on them, but not in vast numbers. But such a stunning bird. Looks like we've got a juvenile bird there. But the colors are just striking. It's such a beautiful bee-eater to look at. I must say all the bee-eaters are very pretty birds. We've got some crowned lapwings also moving through the bottom of the frame there, hunting for small insects. But I must say I'm very excited to see these carmine bee-eaters and the knowledge that they're getting ever so closer to South Africa. So we should be seeing them soon as well. It's quite cool. A lot of your carmine bee-eaters, they will stick to these relatively open areas, but sometimes they'll hitch a bit of a ride on the Corey bustards as they move through grasslands, kind of as oxpeckers or cattle egrets do with bigger herbivores. But the carmine bee-eater will then associate itself with the bustard as it's walking around flushing insects, and then it will hawk them. It's also a very cool thing to see.
Oh, yes, there's a leopard. I've got a leopard here. My name is Cedric, and behind the camera with me we've got Muscles and Paul. Well, it is Feline Friday.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have 2 boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my 2 boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
I think the only problem for this goose nest is the fact that it is quite exposed to the sun. I can imagine that's quite a hot spot to be in. Now, these certainly look like lesser masked weavers that we can see. You can also ever so slightly make out that eye of theirs. You can see it's a pale or whitish eye. If it was your other 2 weavers, southern masked or village weaver, it would be a red eye. So that's an easy way to tell. I also did hear Red Bull buffalo weavers, so they are certainly in the area. I just think maybe this nest is not maybe being used here. They've probably got a nest elsewhere. Okay, we're gonna hop on over to old Donio, leave our birds in peace. Oh, there we go, we've got a few more additions here. Some impala have also come to graze. It's quite interesting to see how we've got 2 antelope species quite well known for their browsing abilities that are now capitalizing on these fresh green grass shoots, and I'm sure some small broadleaf plants popping up, but I imagine it's predominantly grass that's growing there. But interesting just to see how adaptable animals can be. Kate, you had a question asking where are Egyptian geese found today outside of Africa? So to my knowledge, I am aware of them being quite well established in parts of Europe, especially the UK. And then obviously in that region or in that general area would be Netherlands, Germany and Belgium. I don't know where else they may be spread to in Europe, but I am aware of that. I've also heard that they're in the Middle East a bit, but that makes sense considering its position to Africa. But yeah, most of these populations have started from birds being kept in parks or collections, but of course they eventually escape. And also due to the fact they're quite adaptable and good breeders, they continue to do well. So I think there's been a bit of a population growth throughout many areas. But yeah, once again, humans are now foolish ideas of keeping wild animals in places they don't naturally come from. They inadvertently do escape. Penelope Kenyon, you're speaking or mentioning how you love the work harder of the ring-necked dove. That is quite a pretty cool. I must say all the doves, all the African doves that I know, have quite nice little rhymes that you can sing to yourself when you're in the bush. The other one for the ring-necked dove is also, some people say, drink lager. I'll leave it at there, but that one also makes me giggle quite a bit. Quite a lot of impalas now entering the field of view here. I'm not really seeing too many lambs. I wonder when specifically the lambing season is here at Aldonio for the impalas. Javine, you're asking if giraffes are considered endangered. They are in parts of their range, especially the giraffes found more in northern, central, eastern Africa. They're a bit threatened. They actually call it a bit of a, would refer to it as a bit of a silent extinction because on paper or seeing them, no one really takes notice of the threats that they are under and the habitat loss that is driving the decline in their numbers across most of their range, because outside of protected areas they're obviously hunted or persecuted for food or rural communities. So yeah, I do know in those regions where those species are found, they are under quite a bit of pressure where they're not in protected areas. Giraffes in southern Africa, on the other hand, are doing quite well. The population has grown exceedingly well, and that's due to the advent of game farming in South Africa, but also the fencing of protected areas. And the giraffe population in southern Africa is quite high. They are very much abundant. Where I stay, we have a herd of about 10 or 12 giraffes, and I must say they're quite docile and friendly. They do like to raid my garden from time to time. my curiosity got the better of me. I was wanted to find out when impala, lamb in the Kenya area, or Aldonyo, but yeah, it is quite similar to the timing in southern Africa, November, December with the rains. I was just curious why we couldn't see any young impalas here, but we'll probably find they're in a bit of a nursery or a creche on the outskirts of this open, on this clearing, just to keep them a bit away from, or out of harm's way. I was just a bit curious because I know that obviously the rainfall is a bit different compared to what we're used to here in Southern Africa. Okay, you're asking what is the scientific name of a giraffe and its gestation period. So, of course, we must remember there are, I think there's about 4 giraffe species off the top of my head. So each one will have a different scientific name, but in this case, just generally speaking about giraffes, the genus is Giraffa. So not very exciting or nuanced, but that is their scientific name. And their gestation period is about 450 days or so, roughly about 15 months. So it is a fair amount of time, but it makes sense if you consider how big and well developed the calf is when it comes out of birth. Its hooves are well developed, and I mean it's quite a distance that it falls. It's about 1 meter to 2 meters that it falls from the birth canal. So it has to be quite robust when it comes out. Well, I think we're gonna head on over a bit to Elephant Pan for another surprise. And that surprise, of course, being elephants. I know that's my lame joke, but I do find it entertaining. See, these Ellies are having a nice dip in the water, a nice little pool party before Christmas. Looks very pleasant. Yolandi, you were asking, are giraffes the only herbivores with a purple/black tongue? I think giraffes are most famous for that tongue that they have, considering how often we see it and we see them sticking it out, sometimes even cleaning their noses with it, which is a bit gross, but they're certainly not the only herbivores with dark tongues. Their tongues are that bluish black or purple because they contain lots of melanin. So that's the reason why it's like that. It just helps them protect from UV or sunburn. If you think about how exposed and how much their tongue sticks out while feeding with it on acacia trees or Vachellia trees. There's another example that makes sense, quite close to home. The carpy also has quite a dark tongue. If I think a bit about black rhinos, for me, their tongue appears a little darkish, but it is certainly an interesting adaptation. These smaller ellies are really having a good splash in the water there, getting nice and submerged. I think I'll be doing that quite a bit once the Christmas temperatures start to soar. Moxie, you're asking why do elephants rarely get cancer despite their massive size? I think just off the bat, one simple thing is if we consider the exposure elephants have to carcinogens, it's very limited. They spend their time in quite pristine habitats, away from chemicals, eating plants, etc. I think as humans we are unfortunately exposed to a lot of substances that unknowingly cause cancer. If we think of microplastics, etc., and other substances, that does play a role. So I think that heavily reduces it in general. Their lifestyle is quite simple and free of these problems. To get more in depth, I know we've had this question pop up in the past. I do recall it from another time. But it's because they've known that they've evolved extra biological protection in a way. They have more copies of a tumor-suppressing gene called TP53. So it's essentially a bit of a quality control system that forces damaged cells to self-destruct before they can turn cancerous. I mean, that's essentially what happens on a daily basis with most living organisms, but sometimes this doesn't take place, and hence why the cancer appears. It refers to a process called Peto's paradox. So even though elephants have huge bodies with trillions of cells, they've evolved these safeguards to keep it in check. But yeah, interesting phenomenon. I'm going to leave our elephants for a bit and pop on over to Lentor. our local baboon troopers around for their daily drink. I'm too scared to mention something. My luck is always quite bad. I'll hold my breath a bit, but it is nice to see them. These baboons in East Africa with their fluffy, manicured looking coats. Oh, a bit of excitement here. And some rough housing from the younger adolescent baboons. I'm sure a couple of them got a fright there. So it looks like our timing is good. It looks like they're still arriving toward the waterhole, and many are only starting to drink now. I can imagine it's quite warm there. I wonder if they ever really swim here at Lentor compared to how we've seen them have some swims at in the Tanzania Serengeti camp. You can also see some zebras moving about at the back there. Looks like the zebras are also a bit thirsty. I think they're going to come get a drink themselves. Quite a few baboons at the back there as well. Almost looks like the baboons are stampeding more than the zebra are, kicking up quite a bit of dust. And excitement for a cool drink of water. Oh, here comes quite a lot. A lot of chaos there. Zebra's getting caught in the middle of the baboons. It's interesting to see the different social politics playing out between them. Of course, the youngsters are just quite content to play around. Morgan, you'd like to know why are chipmunk baboons such effective raiders and human conflict escalators? Of course, I think this refers to all baboons, but I think it comes down to one simple thing. They're intelligent and big and strong, so they are incredibly perceptive of food sources and opportunities, or being opportunists. So also having numbers and being social lends itself to their abilities. But it might look like chaos, but they're often quite organized, and it doesn't take long for them to pick up on an opportunity. And there's a bit of excitement and chaos. Everyone's a bit on edge of this waterhole. But yeah, if you take those features or properties, intelligence, strength, social grouping, makes them incredibly adaptable. So once they realize there's either crops, dustbins with food, or houses that can be broken or entered, and with high energy rewards inside them, it doesn't take them long to put some effort into it. And I mean, if we think of the food that's around in these situations, it's actually quite low effort for a high reward. So Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. And of course, where the conflict starts to escalate, it's not really because they're being malicious. They're just intelligent enough to remember and know there is food there. And their instinct is to defend it. So when we try to stop them, it's not really you almost have to make it nigh impossible. And I think that doesn't even stop them. So essentially, you have to remove the food from the equation for them to eventually leave it. But yeah, in short, they're very good problem solvers in a human-altered landscape at the end of the day. I mean, if I think of a lot of the dustbins in national parks, they've spent many hours trying to make them baboon-proof. And I think over the years I've seen more new designs and different designs. So clearly the old designs eventually get figured out. And then we have to try outsmart the baboons again. BGN, you're asking how many babies does a baboon give birth to at a time? It is generally always one. I think in rare circumstances there can be twins, but this is not normal. And obviously the survivability of twins in a situation like that is quite poor, because it's quite a strain on the mother's body for food gathering, etc. But in general, you can generally have an idea how many babies a mammal is capable of giving birth to by the number of teats it has. So baboons have 2 mammary glands, and that means at most they can have 2 at a time, but the normal thing is always generally 1 baby. Goes the same for elephants and most of your antelope. Zebras are certainly on edge. I wouldn't be surprised if they've picked up on the scent of lions in the area. I know a couple nights ago there were lions here at the waterhole. It always pays to be extra cautious when in an area. It's when you don't take caution that you end up with somebody's meal.
I'm Ralph, and I'm taking you to Sibuya Game Reserve, which is one of the only game reserves in southern Africa accessed only by boat. We'll stay at the luxury forest camp overlooking the Kariga River with an abundance of bird life and animals grazing on the opposite bank. Luxury tented suites set in a riverine forest offers the perfect place for privacy and comfort. Join me on Sibuya and let's experience it together.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa.
The over here.
Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed colour.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Just run across the screen like that. But this spot has also really come to life. I think about how barren it was also a couple months ago. There's almost no bare ground or soil that's sticking out. It's almost all covered with some form of vegetation. It looks like that waterbuck has decided to have a bit of a rest. It's gonna take it easy now and spend some time chewing its cud. Herbivores spend a lot of time and energy on digesting their food, so that's often why we see them lying down and resting while they process their cud. And also water's quite crucial for the digestion of their food. So they will drink as often as they can. The African llamas are definitely looking quite idyllic here. The females always remind me of llamas or alpacas. See, there's also an oxpecker or two that has flown in here. I can imagine it's a bit of harder work looking for ticks and other parasites in the shaggy coat of a waterbuck. I think it's obviously quite easier on a hippo or a buffalo, or a rhino for that matter. It's actually quite funny, of all the African animals, the waterbuck definitely has the shaggiest of the coats. But obviously those hairs are adapted quite uniquely. It's definitely not for warmth, etc. If I'm not mistaken, I think they actually are hollow. Because if it was too thick, it would weigh them down in the water and they wouldn't be able to swim. We lost a bit of connection there. We've just come over to Lentor again. Luckily our baboons are still here entertaining us. V, I do agree with you very much. I assume you were referring to the hide, but yeah, a lot of these spots are very idyllic. I think they would make for good wallpapers. Gonna head on to see some hippo action at the hide. No, sorry, camel form. Getting my names mixed up. There we go. Also taking it quite peacefully today. I think the other day we saw them actually grazing here at Camelthorne. Looks like a calf and its mother getting a bit boisterous and playing around. Very cute to see. Of course, there's no competition here. I think we're gonna continue our trend of hippo action and pop on over to Mohali, Missouri for some more hippo interaction there. It also looks like Mom went to bed there, so I think she's tired of playing. It's interesting to see the hippo being so active at this time of day. This hippo has gone into submarine mode, giving us a bit of a slip. Zumi is hard at work trying to locate the hippo now. Not an easy task. I wonder where it's gone now. I don't think that water's too deep either. And then again, the way that water's looking quite disturbed and rippling, I'm sure it's somewhere there under the water. Bearing in mind they can hold their breath for about 5 minutes or so. Just all luck to have a sneaky hippo now. I must say, I think as far as idyllic spots for the hippos to be in, I don't think these hippos have got the number one spot compared to some of the other hippos. Anyway, we're gonna head on over to Founders now. Here's our rhinos, certainly not looking as hot or warm in the Eastern Cape. Having a bit of a head scratch on the scratching rock. Seeing this cooler, rainier weather gives me a certain idea what weather is approaching us in the northern part of South Africa now. But I do remember the weather forecast. I think they did forecast rain up until about the 26th. And then it's a bit of sunshine again for a while. I don't think we're going to see too much wallowing behavior from the rhinos today. It's a bit rainy and cool. I'm sure they will not feel the need to lie in the mud. Obviously, if the wind is blowing quite strongly, that cooling factor is increased, and I don't think they want to feel too cold. Oh, I'm going to leave our docile head-scratching rhino. We've got some open-billed storks to see at the basin. Certainly nice to see this different type of stork, African open bill. I don't know if it's actually still referred to as a stork in the bird guides, but nonetheless it's very much a stork. Now, it would be nice if one of them would show us their bill a bit, but they've got, there we go. You can see that nice open cavity, so that's how it looks in its normal resting phase, but essentially they use that opening to eat mussels and various snails that they forage for in wetland areas. And they use it to crack shells open or wedge them out, etc. That lower mandible is almost a bit like a knife-like tip that they, I guess you could say, shuck them out. But yeah, so the open bill specializes in eating snails and mussels. I imagine what we saw it catching earlier was a snail or something like that. Of course, there will also be freshwater mussels in places like this. Certainly not the extravagant ones we think of when we eat seafood, but I'm sure you could enjoy them with a bit of spice, etc. But I think I'll stick to the store-bought ones just in case. And unfortunately, a lot of your mollusks do carry parasites, and if they're not prepared correctly, you can inadvertently ingest these parasites. If my eyes are not deceiving me, that appears that whitish looking thing that looks like a squawker heron. And then you also see them in these wet habitats. There it goes, yeah, it's walking. That is definitely a squawker heron. It's darker back there. Quite a thick neck. Two nice new species. I don't think we've seen these on the cameras before. Obviously capitalizing on the rains in the area and the explosion of aquatic life in these reed beds. Looking at my bird guide, it seems like it might even be a little out of range, but obviously birds are often attracted. We can echo the cool that open bill's got a snail there, I assume. I think unfortunately with the grass, we're not really going to be able to see how it opens that shell up or gets a snail out. But we'll definitely see it eat it. Oh, there we go. Done and dusted. With surgical precision there. These are such cool looking birds. I love that cap in their beak. I do apologise. My wire's a bit crossed. I think this was closer to the Bateti. Where the basin is in the cylinder reserve is actually very close to the delta. So it makes more than sense why we're seeing squawker herons and these open-billed storks. But once again, this habitat suits them perfectly, so it does not surprise me. Ian, you'd like to know if a bird's beak can give you a clue if it's a herbivore or omnivore? Definitely so. Just off a glance, if you see a bird's beak and you're not quite sure what species or type of bird you're looking at, the beak is already a massive clue as to what type of bird you should be looking at. I see that open-billed has got another snail as well. It's definitely a buffet for them at the moment. But just for example, if you consider your seed eaters, they generally have very stout, thick, short little bills, and it's because those bills are designed for cracking seeds and stuff like that. There's not too many birds that really eat leaves necessarily. There are a few. But yeah, birds will predominantly feed on seeds and fruit. And then, of course, if you think of a raptor's beak, it's generally hooked and quite sharp. For birds that ingest meat in general. And then, of course, we have the storks or the kingfishers, etc. They've kind of got longer, pointier beaks for catching fish or insects. So, yeah, your beak shape and size is a very important indicator for the diet and what type of bird you may be dealing with. A lot of bird courses use that as a kind of a feature to help you identify birds when you're starting off. Melanistic marble, you say you saw about 20 of these open bills gathered together by the waterhole at the hide. Do they do this at night? I'll do some reading from my side, but I think it would make sense. Obviously, they're staying in these areas. So if they're feeling safer in these open spots, we may see them congregate like that. Otherwise, you will see them roosting nearby. But what could also be taking place is that they may be capitalizing on, of course, the open-billed would not say no to frogs if they were around, I'm sure. But I think that's also why you might see them possibly being a bit active at night. I don't think their night sight is too incredibly well developed, but if there's maybe a bit of external lighting from the lodge or the camera, or if it's full moon, we may see this behavior taking place. Often a lot of storks we see gather in numbers and it obviously suits certain hunting strategies. It's also for that reason why I think open bills have got no issue congregating with one another. They are hunting snails and mussels, etc., or mollusks. So it's not exactly something you can flush or chase away if there's chaos. And try to tolerate more of each other's company. I must say these open bills are certainly making doing very well for themselves. There's clearly a lot of food present for them in this wetland area. Yeah, like every time we see, every couple of minutes at least one of them has either captured a snail or some type of mollusk. Very sure this is the open book. Oh, there we go. Still struggling to get that snail out a little bit. Shaking it a bit loose. Sure, it's using that lower part of the beak to loosen it up a bit. But I'm sure the strategy at the moment is eat, sleep, and repeat. Make the most of this bounty that they migrated towards. They are resident throughout the year, but obviously in times of plenty like this, you will see them congregate quite a bit more as the water from the wet season rises, water levels rise. Well, we're gonna leave our snail-eating friends here and head on over to Elephant Pan again. Quite a few more elephants here now. Quite a big turnout, I'd say. There's also quite a few in the back there, submerged up to their tummies. I'm sure it is swelteringly hot in that part of the world at the moment. You can see some of these elephants are relatively dry and others are completely soaked. They splash themselves quite nicely.
Join me at Mabula Private Game Reserve from the 10th until the 15th of March 2026 for an exclusive 5 nights for only 6 guests here in the natural, relaxed environment. Explore South Africa's finest reserve here in the Waterberg and enjoy the wildlife and the diverse landscape.
Would you like to know at what age a buffalo calf gets its horns? These are questions that you can ask me in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Got a bit of a smaller breeding herd coming in here. Gingerly stretching out, trying to sneak some fresh water. Of course, quite intimidated by the larger bull elephants there. I think we'll see a bit of a challenge here for who's going to dominate the fresh water. It's quite funny how elephants get possessive over the freshwater inlet. And in this situation, I think there's more than enough to go around, or everyone could squeeze their trunk in. It's on a small inlet. You see the female elephants have won the war with numbers here. They've managed to squeeze in, but I think in this situation there is enough water to go around. I don't foresee any aggression. Well, obviously always a bit on edge in the presence of a large bull. He's quite a bit bigger. You see another one sneaking in from the side. He's even tiptoeing across the logs to wrangle in his spot. I assume the water in the pans maybe got a bit of a taste to it, or these soils here can be a bit alkaline, so it might have a bit of an unpleasant taste for them, hence why. And also the sediment. I mean, if you see where they're standing, it's quite stirred up. I think that's probably also the biggest factor. Got a few big bulls mussing their way in. I think this big bull at the back is going to force these cows out. Yeah, when it comes to elephants, might is right. That's generally how it goes most of the time. And that was quite interesting. I'm not sure what scared that bull elephant off. He didn't even drink very long. He got out of there quite quickly. You might find these maybe interested in a female or something. I almost feel a bit mesmerized just watching all these elephants interact with each other together at the waterhole. It's quite a peaceful scene to just enjoy. It reminds me a lot of the time I stayed at a bush camp on the Limpopo River where there was a pan right in front of the tent, and it would be it'd be interesting to see it in person. All the elephants were also there was also a water inlet, so they used to get quite boisterous and possessive over it. But it was very cool to see it so up close. I think like the tent I was staying in was about 2 or 3 meters away from where the elephants would drink. Sometimes they'd also come at night and you could hear them sucking the water. Greg, you'd like to know if an elephant would survive with just one leg. I would say more than likely no. I have seen elephants with 3 legs where one of the legs has been injured, and either from a snare, etc. But I think with less than 3 legs, I don't think an elephant would survive. Just carrying that weight, etc., would be impossible. And even then, that elephant with 3 legs that was hopping along, you could see as much as it, I mean, it was probably a juvenile. That animal would probably survive, but it would more than likely be the first one to succumb during drought conditions, whether it be a lack of food or water due to the distances it's required to travel. And you could also see the size of that elephant compared to the other ones. It was not necessarily in a bad condition, but you could see it was a fair bit smaller. So losing a leg, it's quite a disadvantage for an elephant. It's obviously very crucial for the distances they need to travel to get food and water. And say this elephant bull we have at the inlet is probably one of the bigger boys. He's commanding quite a bit of respect from everyone around him. Penelope, you were mentioning how you camped here many years ago when it was called Hyena Pan. Also, now that you mention that name, it's quite familiar to me. I have heard of Hyena Pan. I've camped near this area, but not here. And that, of course, was many moons ago when I was a fair bit younger. I would like to come back to this area again. Maybe about 2 years ago, I was on the other side of the Okavango Delta in the Caprivi Strip. Also quite a beautiful part of the world, but this part of Botswana is a very unique and beautiful habitat. It sounds like there's some action going on at Tau, so maybe there's some Christmas Eve excitement waiting for us. We're going to head over to Tau. Looks like the zebras are misbehaving. I was looking forward to some cheetahs or lions, perhaps. Maybe the Christmas presents will be forthcoming later in the festive season. But I assume it was maybe the stallion chasing one of the other zebras there, or maybe subordinate males. Yeah, I think there's a bit of discipline being dished out. Also quite a beautiful scenic view from this angle. You can see the rolling hills here in Madikwe. Sure, the zebra, I always say that funny sometimes. I'm sure the zebra are making the most of these green grasses that have popped up. They are, of course, bulk grazers, so anything and everything that is a grass will be consumed by them. They are unfortunately sometimes a bit harsh on the habitats they're found in. You can also see a lone guinea fowl sneaking through the grass there. Oh, no, there's its partner. So at this time of year, most of the guinea fowl have split off into pairs to mate and lay eggs and raise their chicks. And then once the chicks hatch, they'll rejoin their flocks, while the chicks stay hidden for a little bit longer, and then eventually they will all come together in these large flocks. My local guinea fowl flock around the house has disappeared. I've not seen them back yet. We've got somewhere else to be. We've got another beautiful bee eater waiting for us. Wow, this is quite a stunning bee eater. Looks a bit like a blue-cheeked bee eater. I want to double check myself, because knowing the East African bee eaters, there's quite a few species, but it also, if I look at the greenery, etc., certainly seems to fit the habitat. The bee eaters are definitely winning the prizes when it comes to looks today, between the carmine bee eaters and this blue cheek bee eater we've seen today. They are just stunning birds. I don't think there is one bee eater out there that does not look very pretty. I see this bee eater keeps giving us the slip. He pops by momentarily, and yes, we did get to see him. That very vibrant and green scenery behind his roosting stick, or his resting stick. See, Claire, you were asking if any bee-eaters are endangered. To my knowledge, I don't know of any bee-eaters that are really threatened or endangered. Obviously, declining bee populations play a role in this. Bee-eaters don't just eat bees, but they do specialize in eating bees among other winged insects. One that I am aware of in parts of Asia is the blue-throated bee-eater, which is a bit threatened. Of course, the bigger threat here is habitat loss and disturbance, which causes the decline in areas. But aside from that, I think bee-eaters are maybe a good conservation success story. But at the same time, I think all birds are under pressure, and it's a wider call to protect habitats and look after them. And them being protected necessarily in one area doesn't always guarantee their survival. On many migratory routes, birds are persecuted or caught or hunted. So while they're migrating, they may be threatened, even though they might be safe in their migrational destination. They might be safe, but along the way they're endangered. I think, unfortunately, our beta has made a slip away, but we're going to pop back over to Elephant Pan. The elephants are certainly the star of the show today here at Elephant Pan. I do see we've got some blacksmith lapwings on the edge there. It looks like the elephant currently at the water inlet is being quite possessive of its fresh water there. I think it must be stunning to stay here and just watch the elephants come and go all day. Definitely one of the pretty locations that we get to see. Quite funny, I'm not necessarily sure why that elephant is stirring the water up. Maybe a bit of a habit. Can imagine how many times they damage the inlet pipe for them to eventually build that large cement structure to keep it safe. certainly think the elephants are taking it quite easy today. See the one over there starting to excavate a bit of sand or dirt for a bit of a dust bath, but it actually really looks like he just flicked that into his mouth. That's very interesting.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there. Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Woo. This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly here in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marloth Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I presented, we found Palumba and the two cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Seems like this other bull has come to inspect what he was doing. It seems like a smaller bull is going to now get a nice drink of water now that the coast is clear and he can have access to the water inlet. He's patiently waiting for his turn. Blowing a bit of bubbles. Guess he can take his time. Doesn't look like there's much of a queue or anyone pressuring him. So actually looks like most of the elephants have kind of cleared out now. There's one or two in the back there, but I think everyone's finished with their festivities at the waterhole and is going for a midday siesta now. This younger bull is definitely playing around quite a bit, sniffing them. I might be curious who's been here or what he can smell. I would recommend to him that he maybe takes a big gulp of water there to deal with all that sand he was throwing in his mouth. Maybe a misunderstood and frustrated teenager. Doesn't look too big. I think he's recently been kicked out of his herd, so certainly still adapting to the lonely life. Penelope and Mr. Elemental, thanks for the festive wishes. The same back that side. I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas tomorrow. Fun time of year. Lisa, you're asking where Elephant Pan is situated. So as pointed out earlier, it used to be called Hyena Pan. It's now been renamed to Elephant Pan. But it's on the eastern side of the Okavango Delta. So essentially between the Maremi Game Reserve, if you know that, and the Chobe National Park. I'm not sure if it falls within either's boundaries. I don't think it does. But yeah, it's sandwiched between the two in that region of Botswana. In general, it's quite a large wildlife area. There's no fences. What's necessarily national park or game reserve. After that is communal areas where wildlife still abounds and thrives. Botswana is of course very well known for their tourism and how they protect and look after nature in these areas. Seems like we've got a last bunch of Illies coming in to wish us Merry Christmas towards the end of the show. It was a nice treat. I do enjoy how you get to really soak up the elephant behavior with this camera. Serendela is also a good example. Well, as we finish with the show, once again my festive wishes to everyone. Stay safe and enjoy your festive season. I look forward to seeing everyone in the new year again. And hope your festive season is filled with lots of nature and wildlife.